he acts like it pretends that it's complicated, but it's simple. They set up the inquiry to get to the truth, then blocked that inquiry from getting the information that it asked for, and now they're taking it to court. I know he considers himself a man of the people, so using his vast knowledge of working class Britain, does he think working people will thank him for spending hundreds of thousands of pounds of their money on loophole lawyers just so that the government can obstruct the COVID inquiry?
The scandal surrounding Angela Rayner and the Labour Party has taken a shocking turn, shaking the very foundations of British politics. What began as a murmur of accusations soon escalated into a full-blown crisis, threatening to engulf not only Rayner's career, but also the entire political establishment. It all started with whispers about potential election interference. These whispers, initially dismissed as conspiracy theories, grew louder as the public and opposition parties became increasingly suspicious of Labour's actions. The stakes were high, and the public's trust in the party that once promised fairness and equality was quickly unraveling. The scandal wasn't just a minor misstep, it was a deep-rooted issue that went straight to the heart of the democratic process. Rayner, who had once been seen as a rising star within Labour, now found herself at the centre of a storm that she seemed unable to control. Her initial refusal to step down only fueled the fire, leaving the public questioning not only her leadership but also the integrity of the Labour Party itself. The issue wasn't just about one politician or one party, it was about the very essence of democracy, and whether the political system could still be trusted to reflect the will of the people. As the public grew more disillusioned, the narrative shifted from a party focused on progress and equality to one that seemed more interested in maintaining power at any cost. The fact that the Labour Party, which had long positioned itself as the champion of fairness and democracy, was now embroiled in such a scandal, was not only a betrayal to its supporters, but also to the broader democratic ideals it had once championed. What had started as a minor scandal quickly spiraled into something much bigger, a scandal that would forever alter the political landscape of the United Kingdom. The public's anger reached a boiling point, with protests erupting across major cities, demanding accountability and transparency. Calls for Rayner's resignation grew louder, and it became clear that this was no longer just about a single politician's actions. This scandal threatened to bring down the very political system that many had believed in. The question on everyone's mind was whether the Labour Party could survive this storm, and whether Rayner, the woman at the centre of it all, would be able to weather the fallout, or whether this would mark the beginning of the end for her political career. As the scandal surrounding Angela Rayner deepened, the full scale of Labour's internal turmoil became impossible to ignore. What had initially seemed like an isolated controversy had now evolved into a full-blown crisis, shaking the party's credibility to its core. Behind the scenes, the once solid unity within Labour had started to fracture, with key figures questioning Rayner's leadership and the party's future direction. The party, which had once stood as a pillar of integrity and fairness, now appeared to be unraveling from within, as accusations of corruption and election manipulation cast a dark shadow over its reputation. For months, Labour's internal divisions had been growing more pronounced. MPs who had previously supported Rayner now found themselves divided over how to handle the fallout from the scandal. Some saw her as the face of the party's decline, calling for her immediate resignation, while others were hesitant, fearing that removing her could lead to even greater chaos. This growing divide was a clear reflection of the wider sense of disillusionment within the party. As public calls for Rayner's resignation intensified, Labour's response seemed increasingly disjointed. The party's inability to mount a coherent defence only deepened the sense of crisis. Starmer, as the leader of the Labour Party, faced immense pressure not only from the public and the opposition but also from his own MPs, who were questioning his ability to handle the situation. The once confident leadership now appeared weak and indecisive, unable to prevent the internal collapse that seemed to be unfolding in real time. Behind closed doors, the whispers of a leadership challenge became louder. Senior party members, once loyal to Rayner, now began to discuss possible replacements, realizing that Labour's internal struggles were becoming an existential threat to the party's survival. Yet the lack of a clear successor only added to the uncertainty. The fear of plunging the party further into disarray kept many from making any bold moves, and Labour found itself stuck in a political quagmire. The pressure on Starmer grew as the party continued to lose ground in the polls. Meanwhile, the opposition, led by the Conservative Party, saw an opportunity to capitalise on Labour's vulnerabilities. Rishi Sunak and his allies wasted no time in framing Rayner's leadership as a failure, painting Labour as a party in chaos unfit to govern. The Tories' relentless attacks only worsened Labour's situation, turning the scandal into a referendum on Labour's ability to lead. With public confidence in the party at an all-time low, Labour's future was now uncertain, and its ability to recover from the crisis seemed increasingly in doubt. As internal divisions continued to mount, the question remained, could Labour survive this crisis? Or was this the beginning of the end for the party that once seemed so poised to return to power? The party's political future now seemed increasingly precarious, and the longer Rayner remained in office, the more the political landscape shifted away from Labour. As the Labour Party continued to be engulfed by the scandals surrounding Angela Rayner, the party's internal strife deepened and the public's trust in its leadership crumbled. What had initially been a challenge to Rayner's personal credibility soon became a full-scale examination of the party's ethics and operations. The accusations of election rigging and corruption had not only tarnished the image of the party, but also raised critical questions about the party's ability to function as a force for good in British politics. While Rayner remained at the centre of the storm, many Labour MPs began to voice concerns that the party's ability to mount a coherent defence was quickly deteriorating. The cracks in Labour's unity were becoming wider and more apparent by the day, as infighting between party members intensified. Some MPs, frustrated by Rayner's continued refusal to step down, began to call for her resignation, believing that her leadership had become a liability. Others, however, feared that removing her would only plunge the party further into chaos, and possibly even push it beyond the point of recovery. The lack of consensus within Labour only added to the sense of confusion and disarray, as the party seemed unable to find a way out of the quagmire. Meanwhile, the opposition parties wasted no time in capitalising on Labour's growing weaknesses. The Conservative Party, already eager to unseat Labour, intensified their attacks on Rayner and her leadership. Rishi Sunak, alongside senior Tory figures, seized the opportunity to label Rayner's leadership as ineffective and damaging to Britain's democracy. The Conservatives painted a picture of a Labour Party on the brink of collapse, using Rayner's scandal to further undermine the party's credibility. In parallel, the rise of Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, added another layer of complexity to Labour's already precarious situation. Farage's populist rhetoric resonated with many voters who were dissatisfied with both of the major political parties. His criticism of Labour and the party's struggles only fueled the sense of betrayal among voters who had once supported the party. With Labour unable to address the crisis effectively, Reform UK appeared to offer an alternative for those who had lost faith in the traditional political establishment. As the internal divisions continued to grow and public confidence continued to erode, it seemed increasingly clear that Labour was losing ground not only to the Conservatives but to Reform UK as well. This widening gap between Labour and the electorate painted a bleak picture for the party's future. With the party's leadership in disarray and its policies losing traction, Labour appeared to be on the brink of irrelevance. The failure of Rayner and Starmer to provide a clear and decisive response to the crisis threatened the very survival of the party in the upcoming elections. With every passing day, the damage was becoming more difficult to repair, and the Labour Party's future remained uncertain, with its internal conflicts and external pressures threatening to tear it apart. As the scandal surrounding Angela Rayner and the Labour Party continued to unfold, the damage to the party's reputation reached unprecedented levels, threatening to fracture it beyond repair. The legal ruling against Rayner had exposed the extent of Labour's underhanded tactics, revealing a calculated effort to manipulate the election process and suppress opposition parties. This shocking revelation was not just a blow to Rayner's personal standing, but also a stark reflection of the broader issues plaguing Labour's leadership. Once viewed as the party of fairness and justice, Labour was now seen by many as a party willing to abandon democratic principles for the sake of maintaining power. The immediate aftermath of the ruling left Labour in a state of turmoil. MPs who had once rallied behind Rayner were now questioning her ability to lead and were calling for her resignation. Some feared that continuing to support her would be the ultimate political suicide for the party. Behind closed doors, heated debates took place among Labour insiders, with some calling for a fresh leadership change while others insisted that removing Rayner could plunge the party into even further chaos. The absence of a clear consensus only deepened the crisis, and it became apparent that Labour's leadership was in disarray. To make matters worse, the Conservative Party, led by Rishi Sunak, wasted no time in capitalising on Labour's vulnerability. Sunak and his colleagues seized the moment, positioning themselves as the party capable of providing stability and trust, painting Labour's scandal as the epitome of dysfunction. The Tories framed Rayner as the embodiment of Labour's failures, taking every opportunity to question her fitness to lead the nation. As Labour grappled with this internal implosion, the rise of Reform UK added another layer of pressure. Nigel Farage's populist rhetoric found fertile ground among those disillusioned with the political establishment. His party's rise highlighted a deepening fracture in the electorate, where many felt betrayed by both the traditional political parties. Reform UK capitalised on Labour's scandal, presenting itself as an alternative for voters seeking change, further eroding Labour's support base. The party was no longer just fighting a scandal, it was fighting for its very survival. The more Rayner and Labour tried to recover, the more the damage seemed irreparable. The failure of the leadership to address the scandal with clarity and accountability left the public disillusioned, and the trust that Labour had once enjoyed was slipping away. As the days passed, it became increasingly clear that the future of the Labour Party was hanging by a thread, with its credibility shattered and its ability to mount a successful campaign for the upcoming elections in doubt. With each revelation, the internal rift within the party widened, and the likelihood of Labour's ability to restore itself before the next general election seemed increasingly remote. The political landscape was shifting, and Labour was being left behind. As the scandal surrounding Angela Rayner unfolded, the fallout within the Labour Party became impossible to ignore. The once stable party, built on promises of fairness and equality, now found itself in a desperate struggle for survival. The public's faith in the party had been severely shaken, and its leadership was torn apart by internal strife. MPs who had once rallied behind Rayner now questioned her integrity, with some openly calling for her resignation. The once strong party unity that Labour had prided itself on was rapidly disintegrating. Rayner's attempts to maintain control of the narrative only seemed to make things worse. Every time she tried to downplay the scandal or defend her actions, the media and public backlash grew more intense. The allegations of election rigging, voter suppression, and manipulation of the political system had stripped away any remaining confidence in her leadership. What had initially been dismissed as a minor controversy now appeared to be a full-scale political crisis. Labour's internal fractures deepened as discussions about her resignation intensified. While some MPs called for a swift change in leadership to restore the party's credibility, others feared that removing Rayner would only add fuel to the fire. The lack of a clear consensus on how to handle the situation made the crisis even more complicated. Behind the scenes, whispers of a potential leadership challenge grew louder, but with no clear frontrunner emerging, the party seemed trapped in a state of paralysis. As Labour struggled to regain its footing, the opposition, led by Rishi Sunak, and the Conservative Party saw an opportunity to exploit Labour's weakness. Sunak's attacks on Rayner's leadership were relentless, with the Conservative Party seizing every opportunity to label as corrupt and incompetent. With Labour's credibility at an all-time low, the Tories pushed forward with their narrative of Labour's failure and framed themselves as the party of stability and integrity. Meanwhile, the rise of Reform UK under the leadership of Nigel Farage added another layer of pressure. Farage's populist rhetoric struck a chord with many disillusioned voters who had grown tired of the political establishment. As Reform UK gained traction, Labour's position became even more precarious. The party, once a stronghold of working-class support, now found itself struggling to connect with its traditional base. Rayner's scandal, combined with Labour's internal divisions, had left the party vulnerable to attack from all sides. The pressure continued to mount, and it became increasingly clear that the Labour Party was on the brink of a crisis that could irreparably damage its future. With no clear path forward, Labour was left scrambling to restore its integrity and regain the trust of the electorate. But as each day passed, it seemed more unlikely that the party could recover from the damage already inflicted. The future of Labour was uncertain, and its ability to reclaim its position in British politics seemed increasingly doubtful. As the dust began to settle after Angela Rayner's resignation, the Labour Party found itself facing a new, even more daunting challenge: the question of its future. The damage caused by the scandal had left deep scars on the party's reputation, and while Rayner's departure might have temporarily quieted the storm, the underlying issues remained. Labour was now in a fragile state, caught between a need for renewal and the weight of its tarnished image. The party's leadership was fractured, and no clear success had emerged to take charge and steer the party back to stability. Some MPs, disillusioned by the scandal, expressed doubts about whether Labour could ever regain the public's trust. Others, though, saw this as an opportunity for the party to rebuild from the ground up. However, rebuilding was no easy task. With Reform UK continuing to gain ground under Nigel Farage's leadership, the pressure on Labour to reshape its policies and regain its former strength was immense. Farage's populist message resonated with voters who had grown disillusioned with the established political elites, and Labour's failure to address its internal turmoil only fueled his rise. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party capitalised on Labour's disarray, positioning themselves as the stable alternative in the face of a divided opposition. As the political landscape shifted around them, Labour's path to recovery remained uncertain. The future of the party depended not only on its ability to choose a strong and decisive leader, but also on its capacity to heal from the wounds inflicted by the scandal and rebuild its relationship with the electorate. The coming months would be critical for Labour as it navigated these turbulent waters. See you again!